I'm conflicted. Really different than any yarn I've ever worked with. It's truly not very cozy. Hello and welcome to the Faded Wildflower Crochet. My name is Rachel. And for today's video, we are going to be continuing on in my series where we try out different types of discontinued yarns to see if there's a reason why they were discontinued or if maybe these yarns should be brought back. In the first video, we tried out 4 different yarns from Lion brand, and today we are trying out 4 different yarns from Loops and Threads. So without further ado, we're gonna get right into it. So first up, we have this one right here, which is called Meandering Serpentine. I do have one big hank here and then 4 smaller hanks. And this was actually sent to me by one of you guys. Thank you so much to Christine for sending this to my P.O. box. I appreciate it so much. This yarn feels so soft. I love the way it feels. I love the way all these colors look together. This one does have 243 yards. I'm not sure how much all of these have. It does say 100 grams, and I believe she said in the note that she included that each one of these is 25 grams. There's really not a whole lot of information here on the back, but I do believe, again, in the note that Christine left for me, that this is a 100% acrylic yarn, and it is really quite soft, and I am excited to work with this one. The rest of these yarns I did find on Mercari. They are still brand new in the packaging. So this one is called Woolike. It is 676 yards. This one is a super fine yarn, which I have to admit is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I am not used to working with such a thin yarn, but we're definitely going to give this a try. This does say to use a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and it does feel quite soft. I imagine that the intention for this yarn is that it's for people who are allergic to wool or just don't like working with wool, but they want something that feels a little bit like wool. I'm not sure that I really think that this feels like wool, but it does feel soft, so I'll give it that. So next up, we have one that is actually made of wool, which is called Cozy Wool Merino. This one is made of 55% superwash merino and 45% anti-pilling acrylic. This is a size 3 light. It says to use a 4 millimeter crochet hook there. This one does have 341 yards, and it does have that feeling that I am becoming familiar with in that it's a blend of wool and acrylic, and I quite like this texture. And last up for the day, we have this big chunky boy skein. There is quite a bit more of this yarn than I thought there was going to be, but this one is called Plush. There are 532 yards in this. This one is a size 5 bulky. It says to use a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. And this one is a mix of polyester, nylon, acrylic, and wool. This color is called Champagne. I have to admit that this color is not a color I'm really drawn to all that much, but you know, when you're shopping for discontinued yarns and finding yarns online, you gotta work with what you get. But I will say this does feel really soft and cozy. I am a little bit nervous about working with this one just because I can tell even just from this that it is wanting to stick together quite a bit. So that is interesting. So I feel like all 4 of these yarns would be really great for wearables. They seem to be kind of targeted towards wearables. I think what I want to make with them, since I really don't have enough of any of these to make a sweater, and plus that is a big time commitment, I think what I want to make is hats. I talked about in the video where I tried out the Hobie Lucky Bag that I have been wanting to go on a hat making spree, and that spree begins today. And if you are a member of my family, if I know you in real life, you might not want to watch this video if you don't want to be spoiled for Christmas presents, because I am going to be making hats for everyone for Christmas, and one of these might be yours. So that's just fair warning. There's all of like 2 people in my real life that watch my videos, but thought I would issue the warning anyway. But anyway, I think that I want to start with this one just because it is the first one that I got here, and it's been sitting on my shelf and I just want to work with it. But of course, first of all, I am going to have to make these into little balls or cakes or whatever. And so I'm going to go do that, and then I'm going to get started making my first hat. Okay guys, our first hat of the day is done. I think it turned out so cute, definitely giving fall vibes. I did not end up using the fifth color, which is this gray, because I just felt like it didn't contrast enough with this color, so I just ended up going back to the first color. I probably should have thought out what order I was putting these in before I just dove in, but I actually really like the way this looks. I should put this on, but I really don't want to because I'm having a good hair day and I don't want to mess it up. But for you guys, I will. Look at that. It looks so good. I am in love with this hat. What are the ethics of me wearing this all during the fall and then still giving this as a gift for Christmas? Would you guys do that? Have you done that? I don't know. Maybe I just have to keep this one. I'm not sure that I can give it up because it looks so cute. And overall, I really, really like this yarn. It is so easy to work with, so soft. I love the sort of tonal shifts in colors. Let me show you, this is the best example. Let me show you the yarn. So you can kind of see in this skein that it's different shades of orange. Once it's in the finished product, you can't tell as much, but it does just give that nice dimension to it. Like with this one, you can't even really tell in the skein. You kind of can. Like, can you see that this is like a lighter orange here or whatever color you call this? Orange, peach? No. What color is this? I keep wanting to say persimmon. I don't know. What color would you call this? What color did they call this on the packaging? Hold on. It's called Tangy Coral. That is the name of this colorway, by the way. I'm not sure the names of the other colors. I tried to do some research on this yarn. I could not find how much it cost or anything like that. If you guys know, please let me know how much this yarn costs because that's the only reason why I could see that this yarn would have been discontinued, is that maybe it was too expensive. I also have to issue a retraction. This is not 100% acrylic. It is in fact 90% acrylic, 10% nylon. Now, again, I love this. I love the tonal shifts in the colors. I love almost everything about this yarn. My one critique is, how on earth are you labeling this as a size 4? Let me show you this compared to another Loops and Threads yarn, which is their Soft Classic. Can you see how much thinner this one is? It's maybe not showing up on camera as much as it is noticeable in person. But also let me show you this one, which is one we're gonna try later in the video. And this one is labeled as a size 3. And they're the same size. I'm so confused how yarns choose which is which size, because this, if I were to just see this and guess, I would say that's a size 3 yarn. It works up like a size 3 yarn. It looks like a size 3 yarn. I don't know, but it definitely is labeled a size 4. So I could see maybe some people getting frustrated that it was labeled as a size 4. They get it home and it doesn't actually match the same weight as any of their other weight 4 yarn. I don't know. But other than that, I really, really like this. It also has like a bit of a sheen to it. It's just beautiful. I really, really like this. I know that people will ask me what the pattern is that I used for this hat, and I don't have a pattern that I worked from. I will link one down below if I can find a similar one. But the way I like to do hats is I basically make the ribbing section first, sew that together, then I crochet around that, and then start doing the hat stitch however I want it to. This, I just use like a mesh stitch, alternating double crochet and chain spaces, and then I just sew up the top. And I like my hats to be at least slightly slouchy. That's just the style I like. So there you go. I mean, I think this was a really great way to start off this video. I think we're gonna move on to the yarn that I'm the most nervous about, which is this one. Definitely looking at these in the skein, I'm the most nervous that this one is going to be difficult to work with, just because I'm afraid it's going to snag and stick together and all of that. So we're just gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. So let's go make another hat. Okay, you guys, my second hat of the day is done, and I think it turned out so cute. I did do this one a little bit differently. I thought I would switch it up a bit. I just did all double crochets here, and I made it a little bit slouchier, as you can see there, and a little bit wider, as you can see. And I did just do some decreases instead of with the other hat. I didn't do any decreases. I just sewed it up as it was. With this one, I did some decreases. And I don't know, I think it turned out pretty darn cute. I liked this yarn about 50 billion times better than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to hate my life while I worked on this, and I really didn't. I enjoyed this quite a bit. Now, is it the perfect yarn ever in the whole wide world? No, but I thought that it was going to snag all over the place. I thought I was going to have to be like really working to get it through the stitches. I thought it wasn't going to glide nicely. Now, it does snag here and there, as you might expect with a yarn like this, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to. It wasn't every single stitch. It was just kind of every now and then. And I would say that the part where it was snagging the most was when I was doing those decreases. It just kind of wanted to snag as I was, trying to do the decrease, but really it's not that bad. And once you get into a good rhythm with working with this yarn, I really, really liked it. And I absolutely love the texture of this. It is so soft in the skein, and that softness translates over to the finished piece for sure. This feels so comfortable on my head. It feels quite warm too, I have to say. And I also feel like this yarn is just so nice and light. Can you see that this is kind of a chainette, I think that's what you call it, construction here, and then it has all of this fluffiness that comes off of it. This is classified as a bulky, but it's one of those yarns that's really not that bulky. It's just classified as that because of all the fluff that comes off of it. But it gives it this really light, kind of airy feeling to it. The way that the texture feels, if I could really compare this to any yarn, it's really different than any yarn I've ever worked with. But if I could compare the texture to a yarn I've worked with, I would say it's the most like Karen Coloramo Halo, which I made an entire cardigan with that, and I love that yarn. This one does snag quite a bit more than that one, but the end result feels quite similar. Now, another thing that I like better about this yarn that I wasn't sure if I was going to like just looking at it in the skein is the color. So looking at this skein, you might think, oh, that's just kind of a boring tan, which, I mean, it kind of is, but once it's worked up, you can really see that there are all of these bits of white, once again, kind of giving it that tonality to it that I really enjoy. So I like this yarn so much better than I thought I was going to. In fact, if you know of another yarn that's similar to this, please let me know, because I would repurchase this yarn if I had the opportunity. I do kind of like a nice fluffy fuzzy yarn. Like I said, I really enjoy the Colorama Halo, but this one is a little bit lighter than that. Although I do think that they are both classified as a bulky. This one just has that light as air feeling to it, and it really does make the perfect hat. And am I once again tempted to keep this hat? Yes. This was supposed to be me getting a head start on making Christmas gifts, and now I just want to keep every single one of the hats that I'm making. I once again could not find a lot of information on this yarn, and every time I was trying to Google loops and threads plush, it kept coming up with a bunch of chenille yarn. There was a little bit of info out there. Of course, you can buy this secondhand like I did on eBay. I bought this on Mercari, but there's really not a ton of info on it out there. I don't know how much this cost or anything like that. You do get quite a bit of yardage. I mean, this looks like a full skein, and I made an entire hat out of it. So there are quite a bit more projects that I could work on with this, and I'm excited to. Even though, like I said, it does snag. It does snag here and there. It wasn't enough that it really bothered me that much, and maybe it helped that my expectations were low going in, and then working with it, I'm like, oh, actually, I kind of like this. I really don't know why this yarn was discontinued, and would I like to see this yarn brought back? I would say definitely yes. So far with the 2 yarns that we have tried, I would really like to see both of them come back. So if anyone from Michaels or Loops and Threads is listening, that's my opinion so far, but we still have 2 more yarns to try. So we are going to move on to this one right here, which is the Cozy Wool Merino. I'm really excited to work with these colors. They look so pretty. I'm gonna go make another hat. I don't know exactly what this hat is going to look like. We'll see once we get into it. Okay guys, so my cozy merino wool hat is done, and I have to say that it's truly not very cozy, which we will get to in a moment. But first of all, this hat took me so much longer than I expected it to. Are you okay down there? Lily is under the desk right now. She's wagging her tail. I originally made this in a different stitch pattern, and the way that the stripes looked with it, it just didn't look right. And I got honestly like halfway done and I was like, I'm just not happy with this. So I took it out and I did granny stitches instead. And I do think that it looks good. However, these stripes are a little bit strange the way that they are. They go from red to pink and then back to red. And then the purple stripes are longer than the other ones. And honestly, it's fine. That's personal preference for me, would be to have all the stripes just be the same length, but you know, that's personal preference. I don't think that that's why the yarn got discontinued. And if that was my only problem with this yarn, you know, I could forgive that. However, I would suspect that the reason this yarn was discontinued is because this texture is just not the best ever. I'm pretty disappointed because when I felt this in the skein, I thought it feels pretty nice in the skein, but for some reason that just does not translate over to the finished product. Now, it's not the worst thing ever. I've had way worse yarns in general, and I've had way worse wool yarns. This one didn't irritate my hands as I was working with it, like you guys know other yarns have for me in the past. This one didn't irritate me while I was working with it. It's just in the finished piece. It just doesn't have that soft squishiness that I have gotten from other merino yarns, other merino wool blends. It just doesn't have that feeling to it that I would expect. It does have a certain itchiness to it. Now, I'm not wanting to rip this off my head immediately. I will wear it, or perhaps I will gift this to someone who doesn't have, you know, any skin sensitivities. But I am just kind of aware of its presence on my head right now, if that makes sense. Anyone who has any sort of like textural sensitivities will understand. It's there, and it's kind of slightly irritating me, but it's not the worst thing, if that makes sense. I just was expecting a lot more, I have to be honest. Now, to give this yarn some credit, it was really, really easy to work with. I had no issues with it splitting or snagging. It glided nicely on the hook, all of that. I just really do not like the texture, and I'm so disappointed in that. Now, unlike the other yarns that we've tried so far, I actually do know how much this one costs because it said it right on the packaging, which I cannot find the packaging right now. I don't know what I did with it, but it did say $9.99, so $10. I mean, $10 for a merino wool blend is really not so bad, but I think that with that price, you would expect, first of all, the yarn to go further. This is all I have left of it. And second of all, I would hope that it would be a nicer texture, to be honest. I know that I'm harping on that, but I just really wanted this to feel like other merino wool blends that I've tried, and it just doesn't. It is just more like the traditional itchy wool that I tried back when I first started crocheting that made me think I didn't like wool. That's what this feels like. I'm gonna be honest, for me, I would rather go to a small yarn shop and spend a little bit more on a merino wool blend that I know I'm gonna like the texture of, than spend a little bit less for yarn that is just not the best texture ever. And I suspect that probably a lot of other people felt the same way, which is possibly why this yarn was discontinued. Now, I would absolutely love to see Michaels carry some more wool and wool blends, just because they are one of the only accessible, like widely available places to buy yarn in person these days. Now, I don't have one close to me, but I know a lot of you guys do. And there is something about going into the store and being able to feel the yarns. So I would like them to have more varieties of wool. I was actually seeing someone complain about that just the other day, that Michaels just doesn't have enough options for wool. So I would like to see that, but I just personally would like to see some wool with a little bit of a better texture. Now, of course, this is just my opinion. I'm just one person, but just trying to guess at why this yarn was discontinued, and I'm guessing that's probably the reason. Now, as I am sitting here, I have already finished the hat in the Woolike yarn. And it took me approximately 30 years to make, but it's only gonna take you about 30 seconds to watch me make it. So let's cut to that. Okay, so here it is. I feel like it looks a little bit silly on me. I did accidentally make this a bit too small. I don't really know what happened, but because it's a little bit small on me, I'm probably going to end up gifting this to one of my daughters. And I think this color will look perfect with her eyes. So it's gonna be fine. It's gonna work out, but I do feel like it looks a little bit silly on me. Maybe that's just me because I'm used to wearing the kind of more oversized slouchy hats. It does still fit me. I just feel like it looks a little strange. I don't know. I did do this one similarly to the first one where I did a mesh stitch, which is still hard for me to say, but then I did some decreases here at the top in a single crochet. So I did it a little bit differently than the first one, but it is similar. Now here's the thing about this yarn. I'm conflicted because it's a good yarn. It has an amazing texture. Unlike the last one that I just tried, this one is so soft, so comfortable. But that being said, I just did not enjoy working with it as much, which is funny because I enjoyed working with this one a lot better, but I don't really love the end result. With this one, I did not really enjoy working with it very much, but I like the end result. Well, not really on me, but again, I think this is gonna look perfect on my daughter. But I don't know. It's just, part of it has to do with the fact that it is a size 1 or a super fine yarn, and it is just not something that I am used to working with. I am not used to working with thin yarns. I just have to be so honest. It's not a weight of yarn that I am really drawn to. And part of that, I have to be honest, is because it takes longer to make. But I think part of that is also just because I'm not used to it. And so it just feels a little bit more unnatural. But I don't think that it was only because of how thin it was that made it hard to work with. This yarn is also a little bit slippery and a little bit splitty for me. So all of those things in combination made this not the most fun experience to work with, but it's not a bad yarn. I think that I just have to face that this type of yarn is not for me. And I also have to be honest that it's making me a little bit nervous to try micro crochet. I am still going to try it, but working with a yarn this thin made me question that choice. I don't know if it's going to be for me or not. Now, in terms of this yarn being called wool-like, I don't get that comparison at all. It doesn't feel like wool at all to me, either in the finished product or when you're working with it. It just doesn't remind me of wool at all. If anything, it reminds me more of a bamboo or like a really soft cotton or something like that. It doesn't remind me of wool, and it isn't wool. It's an acrylic nylon blend, which honestly, that's what it feels like. It feels like an acrylic nylon blend. It doesn't really feel like any other natural fiber. And I understand the concept of wanting to make a yarn in an unnatural fiber and trying to make it feel like a natural fiber, because again, a lot of people have wool sensitivities and wool allergies. So trying to make a yarn that's similar to wool, but in acrylic, I think is a good idea, but I just don't think that this actually feels like wool, at least not to me. I don't know if it's because of that mislabeling that this yarn got discontinued, or if it's because it's a size 1 yarn. You guys will have to let me know. Are you the type of person that likes a really thin yarn? I'll be curious to know how many of you guys work with thinner yarns. I don't know, maybe they're just not as popular, and that could be the reason why this was discontinued. I know that I, again, don't really like working with thinner yarns that much. I know a lot of other crochet YouTubers that I watch don't like working with a thinner yarn very much. Just people that I chat with in the community seem to kind of feel the same way. So I would be curious to know if it's possibly the reason why, because I suspect that this yarn would be amazing to work with doubled up. Now, I have not tried that yet. That's definitely how I'm going to be using up the rest of this skein, which, hold on, let me show you how much I have left. I do have quite a bit left over, so I definitely am going to be doubling this up. I might make another hat in this and just make it doubled up, and I'll probably like it 10 times more, I would suspect, to work with doubled up than I do just by itself. Don't mind my hair now that I took that hat off, but that was the last project for today's video. Before I give you my final thoughts on these loops and threads discontinued yarn, I want to know, which one was your favorite hat? So this one right here is definitely my favorite, made in the Meandering Serpentine. Is that what it's called? I just really like this yarn, both for the colors and the texture and the ease that it was to work with. And I also just think as a finished hat, this looks pretty cute. Overall, I feel like I am pretty impressed with these, much more than I was last time when we tried discontinued Lion brand yarns. I feel like I really didn't have any good projects to show for that one. For this one, I do feel like the finished projects for all of these are pretty good, with the exception of this one being, you know, a little bit scratchy. Of these yarns though, I would really like to see this one be brought back, of course, because I, again, like the texture, I like the colors, I like pretty much everything about it. But I also really surprisingly liked this one as well. The texture of this one is just so nice and cozy. And again, I could see this one being a good yarn for people who prefer a thin yarn to work with. But, you know, for me personally, would I want to see it brought back? Probably not. This is the only one that I would say it doesn't need to be brought back, or maybe it needs to be reworked a little bit and then brought back. But again, not really begging for Michaels to bring this one back by any means. Thank you so much for watching today's video and this second part of trying discontinued yarns. You will have to let me know if there are any other discontinued yarns you would like to see me try. And of course, if you've made it to this part of the video, I want to know, what were you working on as you watched today's video? Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to hang out with me again. You can join my Patreon where I have bonus videos, exclusive patterns, you can get access to the Discord, and thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.